double L-C-I-T-Y. That's all we need.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tigers Down Under. I'm your host Alex, and with me this week I've got Dan. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty good. I thought it was, after the weekend, it wasn't too, certainly wasn't a demoralising result. So it wasn't as good as I hoped, but something to build on, definitely.
Yeah, or I'll claim. I mean, I think I said 1-1 draw, so I'll claim that at least it was in line with my thinking. But to be honest, we were talking last week that the reality was that there was a very good chance we could have gone to Coventry and gone to Coventry, I should stress. I know we made that mistake last week. We thought it was a home game. It was at Coventry. That there was every chance we could have gone to Coventry and been turned over 2 or 3-0, and everyone goes, positive pre-season. But once the real stuff started, we fell apart. But no, I thought it was really positive.
Like what's happened maybe just across the way at old Sheffield United, where they were calling for Sayers' head already. One game and they're ready to sack him.
I mean, not to get too distracted on that one, I find that really interesting because I think, in a way, that situation really reminds me of when Volta came in last season, having replaced Rosenia as a popular manager, and it's almost like the fans are ready to jump on his back before it started. And from what I've seen or what I've heard, it sounds as if Bristol City basically had 5 shots for the match and 4 shots went in, and Sheffield United dominated the game, and it was just one of those. Scott Twine scoring one of his free kicks and all that sort of thing. So it's something where I guess if Sayers doesn't get started reasonably quickly over the next few games, it's just that negative momentum. But from at least what I've heard, we'll see how they go. But no, look, for us, I thought, Serge got off to a flying start, 0-0 draw. You could see in patches the sort of, direct sort of fast-paced passing style that he wanted to implement, where you saw the midfield sort of one-touch passing through the Coventry players. And whilst we didn't have that many clear-cut shots, I thought it looked like you could see what we were trying to build.
Yeah, I think in terms of the sort of intensity of play, I think there were a few moments throughout the match where we sort of we were playing it out and we started to play it slowly. And I heard the commentary saying that, Jakirovic was screaming at Panda, screaming at the back line to get it moving forward, to not take so long in the back line, which is good because that was obviously a concern over the last couple of seasons about that play out from the back, that if we take too long, if it's too slow to get moving, then it allows the opposition to reset into their structures and you kind of undo any momentum you might sort of have gained. And when we did play it forward quickly, I think that the main chance that comes to mind is the one that ended up offside, which was maybe Joseph through the middle, or
it was. I think it was Slater ended up with it, which I'm still not sure if it was actually offside. It seemed as if the ball was getting played back to Slater, but
I think that play was great. With a couple of touches through the middle, played it out wide, and then a nice early ball whipped back in across the line, and just unfortunate that. The flag went up, but I mean, we didn't finish it anyway. But I think that was sort of, as you say, a sign of what we hope to come to expect as the norm as the season grows. I thought there was some standout performances. In first competitive appearances for City as well. I thought most of the signings, I think, really acquitted themselves really, really well, which is to be expected. I mean, most of them are, seasoned veterans, but still, I think it's always bodes well when you have a good preseason where they build confidence. They come in on the first game of the season and put together a really strong performance as well as individuals and as a collective. So I think, sort of as I said before, it builds a really nice foundation for us moving forward.
Yeah, I think, and we'll do the votes a bit later on, but I thought for me, Ajayi was the standout, where I've seen a few comments from people sort of saying we haven't had a centre-back of that stature physically, as well as, he's still quite quick and strong. So there are a couple of times where you thought he was maybe starting half a yard behind the attacker, or maybe a loose pass had gone past him, but he was able to recover really well, get in a really good tackle, a really well-timed block, and win the ball back. And it's the sort of signing where you think, how have we ended up with him? Why have West Brom released him in the first place? And it seems to me mainly to be an injury issue where I think he was a bit unfit or, had suffered a couple of injuries over the last few seasons. So I think for us, it's and looking at our injury record last year, I mean, I wouldn't say we're the best of clubs at managing players to, keeping them fit. But if we can keep him fit, I think he could very easily end up being, signing of the season for us.
Yeah, I agree. He was outstanding. I mean, to be fair, pretty much the whole back line was really they were all really strong. All did their jobs really well. For the most part, there, I think each Giles and Drame had a few individual moments where they looked a bit suspect, but recovered well and did enough. And I think just generally, like, I think that the issue that I always have with managers who come and spout out their attacking football philosophy and how they're going to excite the fans and all that sort of stuff, and is that I guess that old sort of expression that goals win games and defense wins championships. And I think the way we started, we showed threat to score goals and win games, but that being able to lock it up and if a team can't score against you, they can't beat you. It's as simple as that. Yeah. So to start off with a clean sheet, especially when we had so few last season as well, it is really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. We also then saw McBurney come off the bench to make his debut as well, which was really promising considering the fact I don't think he's played any preseason minutes at any club. I think he's been basically just training on his own. So to be fit enough to come on for the last 20 minutes, sounds as if you might get either more minutes off the bench against Wrexham tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning? Yeah, tomorrow morning. Or potentially even start in that game. But for me, and probably the most controversial element of the game, and I think it's been a little bit highlighted that potentially he could have been sent off for grabbing at Rushworth. But for me, I was actually really enthused by the fact that him, Crooks, I guess Lundstrom as well, but it was mainly those two. We're getting quite physical with the Coventry side, and obviously there was that incident with Rushworth where, I think we differ a little bit on how intentional it was, where I thought Crooks took his eyes off the ball and basically just ran into Rushworth. Rushworth wasn't too happy with it, and McBurney ran in, and people will say, well, did he have to run in? I think he got a yellow card out of it, and is it the most smart thing to do? But it clearly rattled Rushworth. I think he made a few mistakes after that, and I don't know. I after the last few years of seeing City kind of meekly accept, more physical teams kind of running over the top of us, and being basically bullied by teams, it's nice to see a City side with a bit of backbone to it.
Yeah, I think those sorts of moments, I think are really, I think that's where someone like McBurney with, the physical stature one, but also I guess the experience to know, it's late in the game. We need a moment to sort of lift everyone, lift the energy in the crowd, get them excited, them excited, lift the energy in us, get the adrenaline pumping again, because we're starting to fatigue a little bit, or we're we're kind of getting on top, but let's with that little bit of extra, and so just to go and get involved in something which probably would have just petered out to nothing reasonably quickly without his involvement. Rushworth got up and was a bit upset with Crooksy and gave him a bit of a shove, and that probably would have been the end of it, and they would have walked away, and there probably would have been no yellow cards shown. But it's one of those things, as you say, potentially with where the hand certainly grabbed him, that certainly appeared around the throat. I reckon it's one of those things they'd be looking at all the camera angles under close inspection to see sort of exactly where on the collar, where on the shirt it grabbed. But very, very, very risky. That could have made this conversation very, very differently, go very differently. But I think you're right. We've really missed a striker with that sort of presence. I guess in both senses. I think I was a bit disappointed. His first touch was heading it out of our box, but we're kind of used to his
first touch. Yeah,
I did. I did. I don't know whether he'd get a 100-meter header in, but we have missed. I guess like we've had more strikers kind of over the last couple of years along the profile of Kyle Joseph. A little bit quicker, a little bit nimbler, a little bit younger, with the potential to excite in sort of that, attacking flair kind of a way, but less. We haven't really had that. I haven't I
Maybe
guess like
Magennis. I
proper
was
number
trying to
nine.
think.
Yeah, Magennis, and even then you get like
Yelovich? I don't know.
yeah, that's what I'm going. We've had lots. I mean, like we've had some big players, but none like as in like physically big strikers over the years. Different like Mbawani and some of those different guys that were pretty like stocky but like in terms of I guess really the guys that are going to make it hard for defenders and and get involved in sort of the scrap or the half scrap or whatever to try and protect a teammate, lift a team, whatever. We probably haven't had for a while. So I think it is probably something we've been missing. Some I guess leadership in different parts of the field. So I think certainly it's a good start, a good sign from him. Assuming he can stay fit. And I guess build up his fitness, get some minutes over the next few games. Will be good. I think in the long run is going to be really good for Kyle Joseph as well, and a guy who's been around the championship a lot, scored a lot of goals in the championship, and can try and I guess teach him some tricks of the trade.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, Gelhardt also confirmed on loan on the bench for this one as well. I actually didn't realise that he, Joseph, and Hughes were all in the Wigan Academy together. So that's kind of a nice little link up there in terms of chemistry for them. So that's kind of pretty cool to have him back there. And talking about players who aren't afraid of a bit of a scrap, I think Gelhardt was another one of the players who kind of got into Rushworth's face in that situation as well. So I think we've got quite a few players now. Could mean we come up to those 5 card and 10 card marks of players getting suspensions for a lot of yellow cards, but we'll see how we go on that front. A couple of players also making their league debuts. So Ndala senior debut, on loan from Man City, and then Nathan Tinsdale coming up through the academy over the last couple of years. I mean, Bradford, he was with Bradford City before then. I thought they both looked pretty good. I mean, to your comment earlier about all the new players looking pretty good, I think for me, Ndala at times tried to do too much, but I think that in a really positive way. I think he was really keen to impress and really keen to get in amongst it on his debut, and sometimes that kind of meant that he didn't really, he got a bit flustered potentially, but in terms of having a winger who's a bit more direct, a bit more pacey, a bit more, intent, like attacking intent, I think he as a comparison to Kamara, showed really good signs. I think for me, there was one moment with Kamara where, and I think I said it in our chat, he got the ball played through, and if he turned in towards goal, I think there was an opportunity to play the ball across the box to create a shot. But instead he turned out to sort of hold it up and sort of regather his thoughts. And you think if your first instinct is actually to go towards goal, like you say, Jurkovic is sort of hoping for, then maybe we kind of get a bit more of a goal output out of it.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting game. It was interesting to see how we're playing this season compared to last. And it was really interesting to see all those new players acquit themselves. I thought as well, like Lundstrom was really good in the middle, particularly in the first half. I thought he was absolutely like the linchpin in the first half. I thought he was in control of everything. I don't think it didn't seem to go through him as much in the second half, but I still think he was involved in some of the big plays in the second half as well. So I think it's hard to be disappointed really to start the league with a 0-0 against a team that most are tipping to be finishing at the pointy end. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think I saw that they only lost maybe 2 or 3 home games under Lampard last season. So to come away with a draw, there's a pretty good going, I think. Then, so in terms of votes for this game, who did you have for your 3-2-1?
Oh, I was just thinking about this before. So 1 point I was going to Slater because I thought no end product, but got himself in some great positions. I probably he was getting into the positions that you probably actually wanted your striker to be in. He, for some reason, Slater was the one who's getting on the end of a cross that's whipped into the ball. He's the one who, he's breaking through on the counter. He's the one, and you're like, well, why is it necessarily him there? But
which is good. Like maybe it's McBurney in a couple of weeks. Maybe that's McBurney making those runs.
Yeah, well, that's true. I think I guess that's kind of Slater's his go-to is he's our energizer bunny. He's in and around everything. And when he's playing well, that's kind of what he's able to do is get into those pockets and get into those spaces, and he knows where he's got to be. It just was a game where it just never really sort of fell for him to finish one. But so 1 point to Slater. I'm going to go 2 points to Giles because I thought a couple of really nice balls whipped in, and I thought generally looked like more like the Giles we were expecting when we signed him. Not perfect, but I thought a really good, second coming at City. So I am excited to see how he develops under the new manager. And 3 points go to the big man at the center of the back, Semi Ajayi.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I had the same 3 and 2 for you. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you can go past Ajayi for his debut. Giles, I thought, as you say, looked really sharp at the back. He was getting some really good crosses in, and I'm sure once McBurney starts starting, he's going to appreciate those balls into the box for him to finish off a few chances. And then I just went Hughes, so I sort of rounded it out with 3 of the back 4 getting votes from me. I thought Hughes was really good as well. Standing in as captain on the day, a bit of talk during the week of a bid potentially coming from Coventry, potentially just, trying to unsettle him a little bit. But I thought he, looked very composed at the back there. And, I think he's in, you sort of think about the fact he missed chunks of last season with injuries. I think the first one was his appendix surgery or whatever. So, you're not going to repeat that this season. And then maybe it was a hamstring later in the season. I can't quite remember, but you hope if he stays fit and plays close to 46 games, he's going to have a pretty big season for us. So we've already talked off field about the transfer news in terms of McBurney and Gelhardt. I think post-match, Jurkovic confirmed that Williams had agreed a deal to join us on a permanent transfer, which is probably, as much as I sort of have my doubts in terms of his off-field antics. I think he's on a suspended prison sentence for his reckless driving and that sort of stuff, and that's why he's been without a club for the last 12 months or so. In terms of pure ability on the field, and you look at Aaron Connolly and other guys that we've signed in the past who've had similar sort of issues off field, if you can keep him on the straight and narrow and get him focused and hungry to play football again, I think that could turn out to be a really excellent signing. And 12, 18 months' time, if he's been performing well for us, I think, bigger clubs probably come in sniffing for him because he was, pretty highly rated when he was at United only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think I think I was pretty surprised, I guess, when he appeared as even just coming and being on trial with us and stuff. But so to sort of have that him, I guess reciprocating, appreciating that, we were the one who gave him that sort of opportunity and be willing to stay and give us try and restart his career. I think is it works for both parties. I think the scrutiny that he's going to be under with us is, I think, a lot less than I don't know. I'm not really sure what other clubs had made him offers, but I know there were reports that others had. But you think, like there's not a lot of real pressure at Hull City compared to potentially even a bigger championship club or one of the newly promoted Premier League clubs or something who's just going, well, here's a guy who's got Premier League experience. We could get him for pretty cheap because of like X, Y, and Z. And so I think hopefully it works out. I'm excited to see him sort of get going. And I mean, I guess the only question is, with Coyle out injured at the moment, where's that going to leave the club captain when he comes back? Because Drama, I think, put in a solid shift on the weekend, and then you got 2 young guys, 2 highly talented young players fighting out for the top spot, and Coyle's going to come back from a hamstring injury and have to try and I think that's going to be a tough one. Tough situation, but a good one, but a good situation.
because I think Williams can play either side, but that's sort of the question is where does he fit in? Because if all of a sudden, if Jars is starting to look a whole lot better and maybe just having that pressure of competition will make him push even harder, you sort of assume at some point Williams comes in on either the right or the left. But, we've kind of gone from having very little in the way of fullbacks and playing McLaughlin at left back last season to suddenly going, how do we actually fit all of our fullback talent onto the pitch? Be very interesting. We've also got Akintola, who sounds as if he's signed and he's been training, but we're just, I guess, waiting on international clearance potentially for him. And then, of course, there was also this Toby Collier, who's been linked on loan, midfielder for Manchester United. Sounds as if I'd heard a bit from, I think, Baz saying we were looking at getting a Premier League midfielder in on loan. So it sounds like that might be the one there. But not a whole lot in terms of transfer news this week, but I guess we'll just sort of see what happens over the next, I guess there's a couple of weeks until the window closes, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think I saw that Djurkovic had said after the game that we were like, he's only chasing, I think, 2 more players. Another midfield, another winger. So I think what he said. Because I saw a post maybe on social media that was referencing sort of a comment along those lines, and people were complaining about our striker ranks, and what if McBurney goes down injured, then we're left with Ennis Destin and Kyle Joseph, who have no goals in 40 games or something between them or whatever.
Sure, I know, but we've got Gus Gelhardt as well, can play up there if need be. But yeah.
I'm not too worried. I think.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing as we're just saying with Williams in defence, where you kind of go, when everyone's fit, it actually becomes like a real problem, and you can kind of bring in players on the proviso that people will get injured, but if they don't get injured, it suddenly you do end up with this bloated squad where you're not actually doing too much with it, So yeah, look, I can appreciate wanting to get another striker in, but maybe you get like a young Premier League striker on loan who's not going to get game time or something like that. Deadline day, if there's something comes up, you don't want to close doors before you need to, I guess, in that sort of position of the field. Okay, well, let's talk football matches then. So we've got Wrexham tomorrow morning at Wrexham, and then we've got Oxford on the weekend at the MKM, making sure I'm getting the locations right for those games. Wrexham first in the cup will be a big one. All of the Hollywood context that comes with it. Phil Parkinson, former City manager, Ryan Longman and Andy Cannon, former City players in their ranks as well. We haven't actually played them since 2005. I was looking this up, and we haven't lost to them since 2004, incidentally, in the League Cup. But, I watched a bit of their match on the weekend against Southampton. I think they were on at the same time as us, so I was mainly focused on our game. But did see that they went down with 2 late goals to Southampton in that one, and Kiefer Moore went off injured in that game. But yeah, it's such a funny one because Wrexham seems such a familiar club just because they've been on their documentary, and so you kind of know a lot of their players. And in a way, that almost makes you overestimate them to an extent, I suppose, because you kind of think they're this kind of powerhouse established club, and you go, well, when you break it down, yes, they brought in O'Brien. I think we were sort of linked to him in the summer. Yes, they've got a couple of good, like Connor Cody and stuff, have come in, but it's a game that I reckon we'll probably rotate a bit. They'll probably rotate a bit, but I'd still back us to have a reasonable chance against them.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this before. It's an interesting kind of. I mean, obviously this is cup and not league, but it's sort of an interesting season with as you say about Wrexham and this kind of aura that they now have around them. In previous seasons, you would look at the 3 promoted teams, and you would be going, there's 6 winnable games in the season, or 6 games that we're targeting. Got to win those ones against send them back down. Wrexham kind of doesn't have that feeling about them, and they, as you say, like they have recruited, they've some good recruitment, but it's they also, as you say, like have some of our leftovers, and some of the some of their other players are just other clubs leftovers really. Longman, while he was a reasonable player for us, was unfortunately never really reached the promised heights, and so I don't know. I think you're right. It's certainly it's a winnable game. I think I kind of think that they're going to be probably a little bit hungrier than we are, because I think we're like, I think even Djukiewicz said like a nil, to start the season with nil is a pretty good result. But I think they're pretty annoyed. They're pretty annoyed about the manner in which they lost that game. They got the early goal through Windass, and they were leading for an hour, and then copped 2 goals in 2 minutes or something, right at the end of the game to lose 2-1. So I think they'll be really frustrated about that, and they'll be really keen to go out and make amends for that, even if it's in the cup and not in the league. So I think that's going to be something to be mindful of. But in saying that, it also shows that there is that vulnerability, that they have. They're not going to probably walk this league like they sort of have, League Two and League One. I think this is going to be a much bigger challenge for them. As we always say, championships the hardest league to get out of. So unless you want to go down, but
yeah, and I think like in previous years, this also really suits us where we rotate for the cup game, but rotating actually means playing a stronger side in some ways, because if McBurney's fit enough to start in this one, and Gelhardt potentially gets to start in this one, and I don't know, maybe Egan comes in at the back to give Ajayi a rest as well. That's still 3 really strong changes. I mean, granted, we might rest Panda as well and give the backup keeper a game in goal, and I don't quite know what level he would be at. But even at fullback, you think maybe Williams gets a start. Actually, I think I did say he wouldn't be available for this one. But even so, like, you've kind of got reasonable options at fullback to rotate through as well. So
and even in the mids, you're talking like Palmer comes in to start. I mean, maybe even Hughes gets a rest as well, and and Famewo starts like alongside Egan, just to go like, let's just see what these guys have got. So, like, I think there's plenty of
might get a start.
Yeah.
So, like, you might get some of the youngsters like that getting a go.
What was the other one? Pharrell Brown or whatever, who seemed to do all right in the preseason. So, I'm sort of with you. I think I expect to see a fair bit of rotation. I think with it being so early, it's kind of like you got to balance getting guys game time and going, well, 3 games in a week to start the season is a lot. So I think it'll be interesting to see exactly what it looks like. I don't even think I could predict the lineup for this one, but
no. How are you? I guess, like you said there, Wrexham going for the redemption, I guess, after losing to Southampton. Are you still? I mean, I think our record in both cups have been pretty horrendous over the last few years. So I think the pessimist in me would say we'll probably bow out in this one as well, just for the Hollywood story for them. But I don't know. I reckon I could see us getting a win.
I feel like it's gonna be pretty close. I think it'll either be like at max. Like, I think it'll be a 1-0 or something kind of a game, or even a game that goes to penalties on a 0-0 or a 1-0 or something like that. Like, I don't think there's actually going to be heaps to split us, especially if you get, if McBurney starts and you get an hour out of him or something like that. I think like that's going to be sort of a big. That would be a big plus for us.
Yeah, I have to double check what this is being televised. Yeah, I have to see what this is being televised on. I kind of lose track of whether it's on Paramount or BN. And I don't know if they're televising all the games or just some of them. So I'll have a look to see but before I get up at 4:30 in the morning or whatever it is, and we're not actually televised or whatever it might be. But look, we'll round things off. We'll talk Oxford this weekend. So they did lose their first game of the season to Portsmouth with Sydney FC's Segacic scoring the goal for Portsmouth. So he's off to a good start for them. Oxford, we haven't really touched on them too much. Like I think in our preseason episode with the De Hallenbach boys, we're talking about who we thought might go down. Oxford haven't done a whole lot of business. I think there's a lot of concern amongst their supporters that they haven't really invested in the squad. A bit of instability potentially. So the opportunity, I think, is really there for us to get off the mark, particularly at home, where we did beat them last season, courtesy of a late Puerto goal. And of course, we lost to them 1-0 at their place, where I think it was Balumi that did his ACL in that one. It was arguably the game where we should have seen Volta shown the door, but he hung around for a few more matches. So split the points with them last season. But I think, this one, of the 3 games, of Coventry, of Wrexham, and of Oxford, I think this is the one I think we absolutely should be penciling in as well. aiming for a win, aiming to get the 3 points, and sort of getting the season off to a good start.
Yeah, I think you can just cut and paste my audio from last week when I was talking about getting our home form off on a good on the front foot, getting our first home win and first league win, and or the first win in the league for Djukurovic and all those things. Just cut paste that to this game.
Yeah. In terms of the lineup, though, would you make any changes from the Coventry team? Because I feel like maybe Gelhardt. Oh, I guess if McBurney's up to it, I feel like maybe not quite ready from the start.
No, I mean, I'd probably not. I think no. I'd probably leave it the same, unless just pending something like whatever happens in the Wrexham game. Like if McBurney comes out and scores 3 goals against Wrexham or something, and then just you go, oh well, he's got to start. But I think otherwise, I thought the guys that it's so early in the season, you've surely got to at least be rewarding whatever performances you can. And I think a solid a solid performance from all 11 or whatever it ended up, 14 players or whatever that played against Coventry. That I think at least the starting 11 should be rewarded in the league for that. So I probably wouldn't make any changes unless you really had to because of either an injury or some outstanding piece of form that arrived out of the Wrexham game.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Joseph was maybe the most disappointing, and I use that word sort of hesitatingly just because I didn't think anyone was bad against Coventry, but I just thought Joseph, obviously didn't score last season, a bit of hope, and he scored on the first pre-season behind closed doors friendly, whatever it might have been. It was a very sort of low-key goal, but he seemed to be sort of setting himself up over pre-season to really start the season well, and I just didn't see him work his way into the game as much as you would have hoped for against Coventry. But in saying that, it was potentially a team going for promotion this season. I think I'd love to see him get the start against Oxford to play a side maybe a bit lower down the table. If he can score and get a bit of confidence that way, I think that would be great. As you say, I think having McBurney in the building is going to help him with his development as well. So, yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'd start with the same 11. I think Gelhardt and McBurney are the obvious two to either come on at, say, 60 minutes or, they're the ones that will really sort of turn the game off the bench. I don't know if Akintola and stuff will have signed by then. I don't know what sort of fitness levels he's at anyway. So happy for Ndala and Kamara on the wings again. I'm sort of looking at this one as something where hopefully we get a 2-0 win or something for a bit of confidence. How about you?
Look, I'll probably take any win. I still think we're just maybe only just a 1-0. I feel like we're just still really early in the process. And I think in another month or so, once we're going and we're in the rhythm, I think I want to sort of work the kinks out. Once the system's working, I think we'll look a lot more dangerous overall. But I think we're still we're still teething stages of this system, and I guess the old getting the team to gel and all that sort of stuff. So a little bit more conservative, maybe just a 1-0, but I'll take a 1-0.
Yeah, hopefully get the 3 points in this one and keep the unbeaten start going. But look, thank you for joining me for this one, Dan. That's
all right. Anytime.
And thanks everyone for listening in. It was a bit of an earlier one today, so if you have managed to follow along live, very much appreciated. But if not, if you're watching on the replay, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave us a review if you're listening on Spotify or anything like that. It always helps us, and we always appreciate the comments from you guys as well. But we'll be back next week to chat both these games and look ahead to the next game on the calendar. But until then,